I am done with training. I am officially a flight attendant. Yay, it is official. I have my certificate now and it's good to go. Week 2 was also a lot of information. It's just that it moved really fast. Yes, it really moved really fast. And week 2 was critical and important for each and every one of us because week 2 was when we actually spoke about the day-to-day activity, like the phases, the levels, like the things that happen from the time when you clock in to work for a trip and to the time when you clock out for a trip. So it was very important and very critical that we understood that process and that step-by-step process. One thing I will say is every content or everything you do each week is to set you up for the following week in a way, in the sense that everything came together. So doing week 2 was difficult because the content was new, and for people who had been flight attendants before, it was different. Even though it wasn't necessarily new, it was different. There were certain points, certain content, certain things that they had to know that was slightly different from the past. So you're having to unlearn what you know from the previous airline company you worked for and trying to learn this new content. So it will be extremely difficult at a point. But in general, week 2 was a lot. The assessment was one of the assessments that required a lot of critical thinking. I was successful. I did pass. I did get 100% on that assessment. However, I felt drained. That's how intense it was. It was mentally demanding because there were so many intricacies that you had to know. You had to know the content. You have to know the content to the T, like detail-wise, in order to be successful with the week 2 assessment. That's the tip I have for you. With all the content, you had to, but week 2 set the foundation. And you had to know the content detail-wise. So for me, it was during the week 2 assessment that it became apparent that just knowing things overview-wise was not good enough. You had to know the detail. Why you're saying A. What does A mean? Week 3, oh my God, week 3. Don't get me started with I think week 3 was the beginning of people getting traumatized. Week 3 was the week when we all got traumatized one way or the other. It was either the assessment, the practice, or just watching other people get traumatized. Oh my. Week 3. Oh my, week 3. I think in general, week 3 was one of the hardest for people because it was the drill week. It was emergency week. Honestly, I ended up with a bruised hip. I still feel the pain right now in my hip area because of the water drill. At some point, you're going to get in water. And I thought I could swim until I got in the water. But it was my fault. I haven't gotten in water in like 7 years. I should have known better. But that's just by the way. And that was the core of the emergency and safety portion of this training. And it was a lot for so many reasons. It wasn't necessarily the hardest thing for me because it was more so repetitive and observation. So for me, what made me successful was the fact that I paid attention. So let's say I was told to move this bottle for point A to point B, right? So what's going to happen, and the same thing happened in week 4 and week 5 in terms of our doors and our door assessment and stuff like that. So for me, what worked for me was that the goal is to move this from point A to point B, right? So as I'm observing, I'm watching how this person is moving, or the trainer or the instructor is moving this from point A to point B, how they're doing it, the nuances around it, right? So I understand move this from A to B, but how are they moving it? So if I see the instructor go forward, then back, then to B, I know to go forward, go back, and then move to B. But some people or some individuals who just have it in their mind that, hey, we're just moving this from A to B. So when they go to redo the same thing, they just do what? Move it from A to B. But there's a miss component there. What did the instructor do? They moved it from point A, they went forward, they came back. and then when to be. So if you're good at observing and paying attention to details, you should be good to go. You just have to make sure that you're compartmentalizing everything in the content that you're receiving. So for me, it was just watching and observing and memorizing what I had seen. And you also have, I need to say this before I move on. You have to be open to correction. Like, even if you've been a flight attendant before, even if you've been a flight attendant with this company before, relax, take it as you're a new person. Be open to direction, be open to correction, because if you're being corrected and you're too busy being defensive, you're going to miss the point. So when you do get a second attempt, you're going to miss it again. Because during the first attempt, when you were being given the correction of the feedback, you did not pay attention to the feedback. You were more focused on explaining why you did the wrong thing or being defensive for why you did the wrong thing. So if you're going into this training and you're one of those people that don't pay attention to feedback or correction, or become defensive, this is not for you. You will not be successful. Or even if you do, it would be a hard struggle for you. Relax. Relax. Take it all in. Okay, you asked me to move this from A to B. I saw you move forward, move back, and then move to B. Okay, I go to do it. I simply take this, move forward, and goes to B. That's wrong. I missed a component. What was the component? Moving back. When you're told that, or when you're being told what you missed or what you did wrong, accept it, embrace it. It is not the end of the world. At the end of the day, when you're walking across the stage with your wings, nobody is going to know how many attempts you had at any assessment. So embrace the learning experience, because that's what it is. It is a learning experience. So yes, that's what it is. You just have to be willing to take correction and feedback. Please, please, please. I cannot stress this enough. So yes, week 3 was emergency week. It was a whole lot, but and that's when we started getting traumatized. It got real funny real quick. It got real intense real quick with week 3. But honestly, for me, week 3 was also a turning point for me. As hard as week 1 was, once I was able to get past week 3, I knew that, oh, we can do this. Let's go. Bring it on. Because week 3 was tough. It was a lot of information, things you had to remember, things that I wasn't familiar with. And it was tough for a lot of people. And it was tough for a lot of us for different reasons. We got traumatized. And this is the start of the activity that I mentioned in my previous video, where your success is dependent on other people. So if other people fail, and mind you, this was the first week that we were actually learning the content. So the content was new. So you are necessarily not in the position to be able to figure out what somebody is missing, because you're also trying to figure out what you're missing. So it was a lot, and that's what made it difficult, because you're being assessed and your success is dependent on somebody else who's equally new as you. So you're trying to figure things out. They're trying to figure things out. At what point do you get to the position where you're able to correct people and show people that, hey, this is what we should do. This is what we shouldn't do. It's hard. So it was very, very hard. And it was tough for a lot of us. I can't lie. Like, that's the reality. Week 4, a lot of content. You start learning your doors. You start learning aircraft, from narrow body to wide body. You're learning so many aircraft. This airline company that I applied to or was training with has 8 types of aircraft. So there are 8 types. So you're expected to learn about 8 types. And mind you, each type has variations and versions. So yes, so even though it's 8, it ends up being more than 8, because one type might have different versions, different variations, or whatever it is you want to say. But yeah, so it was a lot. Week 4 was a lot, but there was no assessment in week 4. But that is never good news, because it means the assessment is going to show up one way or the other, and it showed up in week 5. But honestly, for me, my tip for the doors, right, and the aircrafts. So learning the aircraft is a lot. It is a lot, I can't lie. Like, every day you're learning a new aircraft, and we did it in 8 days. And each aircraft, there are certain things that you're supposed to know: how to operate the doors in normal operation, emergency operations, so, among other things. There are different types of doors, and each aircraft has different, like, it is a lot. That's what I gotta say. It was a lot. But what worked for me was being able to compartmentalize everything, right? And then, like I said, I'm a visual person to an extent as well. So for me, knowing that, okay, I did on Monday, I did the 737. So if I can memorize everything that I did on the, not everything, but almost everything that I did on the 737 on that Monday, it helps me know that this aircraft was done on this day, and these were the things I did on that day. I don't know if you get the drift. So if we're talking about all this information is new, you're just getting the information. So I am not in the position to memorize everything verbatim. Not memorize verbatim, but to have like a grasp, like a full, confident, solid grasp on everything. So the only thing that helped me was knowing when I did those aircrafts, the days I did them. Yeah, in the week I did it. So if I know that last week Friday, I did the what did I do on Friday? The A220. And I did A, B, C, D. These were the things or components that were associated with that aircraft, and it was on that day. I know that that information was not the same as the aircraft I did on Thursday. So whatever I remember about the aircraft on Thursday, which was the A321, is unique to that aircraft. So it made it easy for me to compartmentalize every single thing. So there was no way I would mix things up because each aircraft was done in one day. So you didn't do 2 aircrafts on 2 days. Each aircraft had a day dedicated for it. So that was great for me because it made it easy for me to not mix things up in terms of what I knew and what I remembered from the day. And when it comes to learning the aircraft, it is important that you pay attention every single day. So if you go in today and you're learning about the Boeing 737, pay attention to every single thing that's happening. Watch, because you might underestimate what your memory can retain just by visually watching things. And I think that was one of the ways that made me successful, was that I watched every single thing. Even when my classmates were practicing, I would watch every single person, watch every single move, every single thing they did. Whatever was being spoken about, I had to pay attention. I had to hear it. So if somebody says something or an instructor said something and I did not hear it, I would not remember that. I won't, or I didn't pay attention to it, I would not remember that. So I had to pay attention. I had to be super zoned in and attentive to all the content and the visual things that were happening. Because when I got behind each written assessment and I had to do certain things, it was the things that I saw and the things that I heard that helped me. Because mind you, when you have those long days, you're extremely tired. When you have those long days, you're extremely tired. So even if you go back to your room and you're going through your e-learning or your content or your notes, it's hard for you to absorb anything more because your mind is saturated. So for me, the success was paying attention in class. And trust me, you would come and give me feedback in the comment section. Pay attention. Watch all the visual cues. If they're touching the door, how are they touching the door? What are they saying when they're touching the door? Like, pay attention to that and you're good to go. And you're good to go. One thing I will say is that for week 3, in order to survive week 3, you might zone out when you're doing things. So there are going to be drills and certain things you're supposed to do. And because it's new to you, the only way you can memorize the information and be able to reproduce is to zone out. Zoning out meaning once you get into character, you're tuned out. All you can see is you going through the motions and just saying what you need to say. You're not necessarily understanding what you're doing in that moment. That would happen in week 3 and at the beginning of week 4. But as you do the repetitive motions and everything, get out of your zone and start understanding why you're doing what you're doing, because that's another way to be successful. So when you get to, let's say, the middle of week 4, you should understand why you're grabbing a flashlight. You should understand what I'm looking for when I'm making a motion like I'm looking for. Like you're going to understand this essentially, but you should understand why you're doing every single thing. That way, if you miss a component, you would know what you missed, first of all. And then secondly, that way, if you get thrown off in any way, you understand what you're doing. So it'll be easy for you to catch yourself and continue. Okay, so I had to switch to my phone because I ran out of power. memory on my camera. So that's how to be successful when it comes to the doors and learning the aircrafts and stuff like that. The other thing that I did also want to mention was that, let me talk about the assessment. Like I said in my previous video, I think in week 6, you need 80 to pass each assessment, the written assessment. However, you have to maintain an average of 90%. So then think about it. If you have 6 assessments and you get 80 on each one, your average will become what? 80. You don't want that. So you have to make sure that you're balancing. And like I said in week 6, it's better to put in all your effort as much as you can to be as successful as you can in the early or the first assessments, like the assessment 1, 2, 3, because that will set your foundation for the coming weeks. Because mind you, if you're super successful in the first few assessments, it will be hard for any score you get in the subsequent assessments to impact you negatively in any way. So let's say let's use myself as an example. So for me, the first assessment, I had 97, right? And then the following 3 assessments, I had 100 on each one. So I had 97, 100, 100, 100, and then I had 97 and 97 again. So when you add my average, honestly, because I had those 300s and that 97 to begin with, it would have been hard, like, for me to drop very, very low average wise in any way, you know, because I set the foundation. My foundation was strong. So do that. I'm not saying you should get 100 because you don't get a prize for getting 100% or 97 or 93 or whatever. However, for me, my goal was, I have left everything. I left my job. Like, I uprooted my entire life. I knew somebody who uprooted their entire life just to come do this. So this is not the time to play. You know, you have to make sure that you're taking things very seriously. So whatever you can to be above 90, do it, because you don't know what would happen. That was my motto, was that I don't know what's going to happen on that final assessment. I might get 80, I might get 85, I might get 87. So why not do my best every single time before that final assessment? That way it sets me up for success. That should be your mentality. Nobody's saying go get 100 every single time or get 97 or 96 or whatever it is. But think about it. If you're getting 80, 85 from the beginning, one is showing that you really don't know the content. So think about it this way. If you really don't know the content you're getting every week, now that you're starting, those content are going to show up one way or the other in the subsequent assessments. So it's either you know it now or you don't, or you will have to put in a lot more effort before your final assessment or the subsequent assessments. So for me, because I put in, and my roommate and I did the same thing, because we put in a lot more effort from the beginning, honestly, the final assessment, aside from not knowing what to even study for, I didn't really do anything. I didn't do much. I didn't even know what to do. I was too tired to do anything. Get it? But then, because I put in the effort, I put in the work from the beginning, if nothing at all, I know the content from all the other assessments that I did. So that would impact me positively in the final. So think of it that way. Nobody's saying go get 100 every single time. It's nice. You don't get a prize for doing it. It doesn't earn you any who points in any way. You don't earn anything from getting 100 every single time. However, think about it. You don't know what will happen in any assessment. You might get sick, you might hit your head, something might happen, and you would need the good scores that you had in the past to come through for you. Because with my average, or even with other people that I knew, with the average, that if you set a very good average, even if you get 80 on the final assessment, even if you got 93 the whole time you were there, right? If you get 80 on the final assessment, I think your average drops to like a 91. So then look at that. Maybe something happened, you couldn't figure, like, I don't know what happened, but you got 80. That puts you at a 91 simply because you put in the work from the beginning. So keep that in mind. And they do not play with those assessments. Don't go, like, your success in this training is dependent on your assessments and your practical assessments. So don't think anybody's playing there. And it would be a waste of time and effort to be sent home simply because you failed an assessment. Not because you genuinely failed it, but because you messed around. you didn't take it seriously, because obviously not everybody's a test taker, and simply because somebody fails an assessment doesn't mean that they're not good or they won't be good at the job. Not everybody's a test taker, so you have to understand that. So if you know you're not a test taker, it means you're going to have to put in extra effort, because regardless of how successful you have been in other stuff, that might count against you. So keep that in mind. Even though they do review everything, your performance as a whole, just don't put yourself at that point. And I understand not everybody's a test taker. Trust me, not everybody is. It's hard. For me personally, I know myself, and I know that in order to be successful, I have to put in the work. I have to study. I can't just assume that, oh, I heard it, I read it once, and that's good enough. I went over my e-learnings like 3 times before every assessment. In terms of the time I did it, when it needed to be submitted, I go over it again. And before the assessment, I go over it again. Not necessarily because I'm trying to memorize everything verbatim, but just reading through it. Like I said, I'm a visual person. I pick things up visually. So the more I look at the content, the more I'm going to be able to memorize the content. That's what works for me. So when I'm reading through my e-learnings, I'm not reading through to memorize every single thing verbatim or to commit it to memory, but just going through it, I'm definitely going to remember the content if I should see a question about it again. So that helps. Moving on from there. Now that I've talked about the serious stuff, let's talk about the funny and not so funny stuff. Drama. There will be drama. There will be drama. There will be drama. I cannot stress this enough. There will be drama. Stay out of the drama. Before I went for training, so many videos were talking about drama. It is real. It is not a joke. There will be drama, but just know that, like, personally for me, I don't take things personally. And when you're going into an environment like this, do not take things personally. Do not take things personally, and give people the benefit of the doubt. Give people the benefit of the doubt that their intention is not to hurt you or disrespect you or offend you. Even if it is. That's not the point. You don't need that negativity in your life. So stay out of the drama. I love my sleep and I love my rest. And a good day for me is me being able to have my own personal space and be alone in my room, minding my own business. But not everybody. People like to socialize. People like to interact with people. That is their well-being moment, or a way to take care of themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. But I'm not that person. So I was that person that was in my hotel room every time after class. People did not even know that I was in that hotel at a point. But I digress. The point I'm making is that try as much as possible to stay out of drama. Anything that does not help in your success in this training experience, don't get involved in it. Follow instructions and do what you need to do to be successful. Don't get involved in the drama. If you need to debrief, I know my roommate and I had a thing. We developed this like a few weeks in, where things started to become a lot, where we would have an appointment to debrief after class. So debrief meaning like talking about how the day went, how we felt, how things felt for us. It was very good and therapeutic in a way, because it's a way for us to let it out. So whatever you were feeling during the day in class, when we get to the room, we let it out, and we move on from there. We don't go back to it. It's just gone. So that was kind of nice. I really appreciated that. So if you can do that with your roommate, that'll be perfect. Just let it, not that you're trying to be negative or anything, but just letting your thoughts out, because sometimes when you're in an environment where there are different people, different backgrounds, there's certain things you cannot do or say. And not because you're trying to hurt somebody or be disrespectful, but you can't necessarily share your thoughts or your mind every single time, because not everybody would appreciate or get it from your perspective. So when you have a roommate where you can actually have that conversation with, it's actually pretty nice. And I was privileged enough to have that. So our appointments were always on time. So we had to have the drama. But yes, please stay out of the drama. Be nice to people. Like, give the same respect you want to be given, you know? And honestly, for me, to end it all, the experience was nice. It was a really good experience. I got to meet new people. I got to interact with so many different people, and it was a fun experience. And what made it hard mentally, in a way, aside from all the content and all the work, was the fact that you bond with people and then you see them leave for different reasons. And know that it can be you. Like, my roommate and I would always say this, like, anybody can be sent home at any point in time. Like, you have to make sure you're doing what you need to do. You have to take the process very seriously, because regardless of what you have going on, you can have a good average, a very high average, but you might fail somewhere that's also critical, and that can get you sent home. That's how important it is. And it's more crucial because you have left your job. You have left your entire life to come and spend 6 weeks here only to get sent home. So if you know where your weaknesses are, take advantage of the resources you have and get the assistance that you need. But I will always end with this. This is not for everybody, in the sense that this might not be your journey. Maybe you were meant to come start the process but not finish it. Maybe you were made to come into this process or this journey just to get the experience of it. But don't let that discourage you. If you do want to go back and try and come back in again, go ahead and do it. I always told the people that I had interactions with, no, if you eventually get your wings, nobody's gonna know how many attempts you had on your assessment, how many attempts you had on your practical evaluation. Nobody cares. In that moment, what's important is that you got your wings and you were successful. The true tea, or the truth of it all, is when you get on that line, how you treat the customers, how you do your job is going to be an actual reflection of your success of this training. So if you came in and you made it happen and you did what you had to do, you pulled yourself through from the bottom and all that, and you did not take it seriously, it would show when you go out to do the job. It would show when you go out to arm doors, disarm doors, and not do it properly. It will show when you're interacting with customers and you're talking anyhow and doing anyhow. It will show when you're out there not being compliant with your uniform, hair, nails, all that good stuff. So the whole training was put together just to put us in an environment that allowed us to experience what the true job experience was. Being told what to do, following instructions, doing what you have to do. If you are not able to follow instructions while you're in training, when people are watching you, when you're on the line, nobody's watching you. Nobody's there to check you and say, hey, you need to do this, you need to, no, you're on your own. You're an independent individual. So if you cannot follow instructions now when you're actually being watched, what makes you think you're going to be able to do so when you get on the line? So don't take the training experience for granted. Absorb the information, do what you need to do, get in the habit of doing what you're supposed to do, and study the content. You might not memorize it. You might have to refer back here and there, because I know I have to. But the fact that I put in the effort to study it means that when I do get on the line, I would be able to use my resources to figure things out, because I can't memorize everything. It was way too much for me to try and memorize it. My capacity with this app cannot. But it's about work ethic and how you present yourself. Who you really are will show when you get on the line. So you might get the wings, but the reality would be that when you get on that line, how will you do the job? And that would show one way or the other. Keep that in mind. So let's end it off. I had fun. If my peeps, if you were in training with me, if you were in my section, my class, and you're watching this video, drop a comment in the comment section below. It was a pleasant experience. I enjoyed interacting with everybody. I enjoyed the whole process. As hard as it was fun, it was entertaining, it was exciting. There were some ups and some downs and everything, but we pulled through. We got our wings. We went across that stage and grabbed those wings, and yeah, we made it. We made it. So if you're watching this video, drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know you've seen this and you've seen me. I see you too. And then if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Like the video, guys. Let YouTube know you like the content I'm sharing, because I'm here for that new flight attendant. I am here for that person who wants to become a flight attendant. I am here for that person who decided to become a flight attendant, so they went through the application process or are going through the application process. I'm here to support you. If you have any questions, once again, drop in the comment section below. I give full permission for you people to share my content on all social media platforms. Put me out there. I am currently sitting at 345 subscribers. I'm trying to hit 1,000 by the end of 2023. So support me by sharing my content. Get your family and friends to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye-bye.